This is Dr. Baker from the Limbic Chiropractic Center, and I want to welcome you to our conversation this evening on 5 ways to better sleep. Now, listen, you are probably going to get one or two of these different examples into this conversation, and you're going to have a list that you're going to be wanting to work on. I'm going to encourage you. You want to start that list from below. Not just from the ways of helping to better your sleep, but I also want you to understand what's at risk. What is at stake if you're not getting that best night's sleep? You know, most of us, we've been raised. We've been raised in high school and into college. We're going to spend an all-nighter. We're going to spend an all-nighter and we're going to study through the night. We're going to learn all this information. Listen, this is not a chiropractic thing. This is a health thing. We recognize what the research tells us, what all the science describes to us, that in the end, when we do things like that, there's just a bad outcome. In fact, whether we're talking about studying or whether we're talking about staying up all night just to party and have fun, it really doesn't matter. The outcome is exactly the same. And I'm pretty sure as we go through the list of the outcomes of what poor sleep brings to us, nobody's going to be signing up for that program. Listen, when we look at this, what's the trouble? We're supposed to be getting, somewhere around 7 hours. Now, we can all debate on, the timeline, and yes, there's numerous studies that are out there that show that, hey, listen, somewhere between 5 and 8 hours for adults is really that timeline. Well, listen, I just recognize that most individuals are probably closer to that 7 to 8 hour mark in order to get that great restful sleep that they need. But let's look at a couple things that happen when we don't get sleep. Things like decreased attention span. First things first. Let's think not about ourselves. Let's just think about the kids. If you have kids at home and they're like my kids and they're starting up in school, do we really want them sitting in school with a shorter attention span? This time in their life where they're supposed to be learning and absorbing information, they're supposed to be, gathering up the wisdom that they need in order to continue to move forward in their academic careers. Do we really want that attention span to be drifting smaller and smaller? The answer is no. Listen, if you own your own business and you have employees, do you want their attention span to be better or worse? Well, I think everybody out there, regardless of whether you're a parent, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee anywhere, you want that attention span to be as vibrant as you possibly can get it. Because in turn, that just starts the list. Depressed feelings. I don't know anybody who signs up and wakes up in the morning and say, hey, listen, you know what? I just want to feel really, really bad today. Listen, you could use whatever adjectives, whatever verbs, you put in whatever word you want there. But here's the thing. I have never met anybody who says, I want to live a less than vital existence. And you're probably exactly the same. You want that abundance. You don't want to have that depressed feeling. You want to be able to be out there and be engaged fully. You want to make sure that you're capable of really processing different ideas. In fact, for some of us, we might be thinking, let me just get really superficial. Maybe it's just about, well, how am I able to maintain my weight, my body? Am I capable of, exercising the way I want to? Am I able to actually maintain a steady body weight as opposed to seeing, the hills and the valleys? And for some of you, maybe, hey, listen, you're not 14, you're not 15, maybe you're 60 and 70, and you're having trouble controlling that. Well, this conversation might be one of those conversations you want to dig into. Because finally, at the bottom here, is something I think we all recognize. We all recognize as being so important is our immune system. Now, Doc, come on, really. Me getting enough sleep is going to affect my immune system? Oh, yeah. Well, those old wives' tale, They are absolutely true. And we can go through the science. I could bore you to death between the neuroimmunology connection and how it's affected by the brain functioning. Listen, we're not going to go there. What we know, we're going to talk about in this workshop tonight, and you're going to learn an awful lot. I want you to buckle in because we're going to go through this pretty quickly. But I want you to think about who you're going to share this with. You know, it's not enough that you have a takeaway. And if you're a patient at the Limerick Chiropractic Center, in the comment section below, I want you to leave a comment of what's the one thing, what's the one out of the 5 things are you going to be focusing on to make sure that you're helping yourself improve your sleep. From there, make sure that you like this. But finally, share it with your Facebook friends. Because we realize that, you know what, it is so important for people to recognize not to just blow through this topic, but you know what, they need to know what you know about gaining better sleep because their health is at stake. Let me say that again. The health of the body is at stake. And this is not a chiropractic thing. In fact, I'm just going to tell you, you know, there's these guys, they're actuarials, they just simply sit there and look at statistics. And particularly the rate of death. How long are you going to live? And if you think, hey, listen, you know, me getting sleep, I just lay down, I close my eyes, that's enough. It's not enough. Because the actuarial has already recognized that, hey, listen, if you miss the proper sleep at the right time, you have a 30% decrease in your life expectancy. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody out there that absolutely wants to give up 30% of the time that they get to spend in community and connection here on this earth? I don't think so. But in the same respect, it is a choice. It's a choice that each and every one of us have. So let's talk about what we can do. You know what? We recognize if we don't get sleep, it's a problem. In fact, if you want one final example just to drive this home, I'm going to ask you, take a 4-year-old, get them off their nap schedule, keep them up late a couple nights in a row. Go ahead. You see what type of a turmoil you get in the living room. Listen, that little 4-year-old is going to be like the Tasmanian devil after about 3 or 4 days of not getting the proper amount of sleep at the right time. So if you think it doesn't affect people, it absolutely affects people. So let's focus on what we can control, the things that we can do. In fact, you know, one of the very first things that we can do is go over and set the temperature in our room. Most people miss this. They don't ever think about, you know, the temperature in the room. It should be between, you know, it's a pretty broad range, between 60 and 73 degrees. But the reason is that lowered body temperature actually initiates heat. It's really a wonderful thing. In fact, you want to make sure that if you're crawling into bed that, you know, you're doing so with an agenda. And to close the lights about 30 minutes before you really want to go to bed because, listen, those lights, they emit, in fact, oftentimes they're emitting blue light, which has a hormone disruptor effect. It messes with your melatonin and your serotonin levels. And in turn, you know, that's one of those things that you're able to control quite easily. Just a matter of turning the lights off. Now, here's the thing when we were just talking about with the 4-year-old, you got to maintain your schedule. Now it's like, oh, come on, Doc. Really? Come. You got to be kidding me. Well, listen, you and I are no different than that 4-year-old. Our bodies are exactly the same. Our bodies love rhythm. That circadian rhythm, that is one of those things that we want to take advantage of because being in rhythm means that it is more likely and easier for your body to shut down when it's supposed to if it's in pattern and in rhythm. When you do things very, you know, at off hours and at different times, it's harder and harder for your body to actually shut down. Know that you want it to shut down and actually go into that sleep mode. You know, you also want to make sure that you're changing your diet. It's like, oh, come on. Really? I love this picture, by the way. Eating in bed. By the way, the whole feng shui thing, listen, kitchen table, made for eating at, not your bed. All right? If you're used to eating in bed, stop now. Maybe it's that mental thing, but it's also the physical thing. See, when we're eating, and regardless of the type of food, but particularly, some of the carbs, the sugars, well, as we're eating those things, close to bedtime, what ends up happening is our metabolism is ramping up. It's spiking up in order to actually break that food down, which raises or increases the core temperature, which in turn doesn't allow us to drift into that calm, peaceful sleep. So we want to make sure that we're limiting those ingestion times. We want to make sure that we're pulling back to early in the evening to make sure that we're not getting too close to our bedtime and still consuming. In fact, you want to make sure that you're eating those good, healthy fats. It's like, wait a minute, you just said fats, right? Fats are bad for you. The answer is no. Our brain needs fats. Our brain is 80% fat and water. If we're not taking in those good, nutritious fats, unfortunately, we are starving our brain. Let me ask, how good do you operate when you're starving? When you've pushed beyond, your normal meal time, and you start getting that hangry on, how do you feel? You able to focus real well? Well, your body's no different, So we want to make sure that we're giving it those good fats, same with the magnesium and potassiums, because we recognize that all of those things are necessary for your body to function really well. Now, the one thing that you do want to limit is your caffeine after 7 p.m. For some, it affects them more than others. Everybody is different. Some of these recommendations for you are going to be non-issues. Others, they're going to be game changers for you. I don't know. I want to hear from you what some of those really big things are going to be that you need to work on. Now, when we talk about magnesium, this is so important because, we should be taking in about 400 to 500 milligrams prior to bedtime. This is one of those things that helps our body relax. Same with the melatonin, 1 to 3 milligrams per half hour before bed. This just simply allows the brain to calm itself. Now, vitamin B, really? Is that necessary? Particularly B12? This is one of those things that a lot of people miss in how it supports the cellular function. See, all of these things are necessary. And we talk about them, we talk about it pretty quickly here. And if you have questions, I want you to ask. But I recognize there's so many of these things that we're missing. I want you to cherry pick the really simple, the very easy thing that you can implement tonight to start helping yourself. And recognize, just because you started tonight doesn't mean that you're going to see this great profound effect right away. One of the things that I oftentimes, recommend are essential oils. As we look at the lavenders, the chamomile oils, they have that soothing effect on the body. Now, some people, they enjoy the baths. That's a wonderful way for them to dial back, to relax, to have those quiet, peaceful moments to allow their body to just simply settle down. For some, in fact, I've talked to patients here in the office. They're like, Doc, I don't have no bathtub. There's no bathtub in my house. I got a shower, that's it. Not a problem. One of the really neat things is that we're able to get some of those same effects from the chamomile, from the lavender, by applying it to the bottom of our feet. This is a really simple, very easy way of getting those oils into our system really, really quickly. Now, I will tell you, you are going to want to put some socks on over top of your feet because you don't want to get those oils on your sheets, okay? But simple and easy, and it absorbs very, very quickly. So the wonderful thing is if we ever have that desire to get, essential oils rapidly into the system for that positive effect, applying them to the feet, just like taking a nitro tablet and putting it underneath your tongue, it absorbs just that quickly. once we know the information, it's amazing how we can apply it and use it, and in this case, applying the essential oils to the bottom of our feet. Now, oftentimes, we talk about things that are right up against our sleep time. Well, listen, these are some of those things that are not up against our sleep time, that we have to plan for during the course of the day. One of them happens to be getting out in the sun. See, we need vitamin D. Vitamin D, that sunshine vitamin, is one of those things that our body requires in order for great brain function. Most of us out there, during the whole COVID, pandemic, so many of us who work, inside of buildings, the problem is we miss the prime time in order to actually get this vital nutrient, this vital production. And I'm going to tell you, when we start looking at when we want to actually be out in the sun, yes, the best time is the midday hours. The best time is to make sure that, we're having as much of our skin exposed so that we're having this great production at the highest level possible. In the morning, in the evening, we just don't have the same, it doesn't have the same effect because of the type of rays that are being produced. So we want to make sure that we get exposed during those midday hours, 15, 20 minutes at a shot. If you're able to do that once or twice, that's awesome. And it's going to be capable of producing that positive effect inside your system in order to help you later on in the evening. Now, likewise, meditation and prayer. Learning to calm your mind, to quiet it down. Listen, we've all been in a restaurant or in a store where they have that loud music playing. We were just in a store like that this past weekend as we were out shopping. My wife and I were looking at each other. It's like, we got to get out of here. This is nuts. We couldn't even focus on what we were trying to purchase. And in turn, before we even looked at the product, we turned around, we left the store to find someplace else with a better environment that we were able to pause and focus. Well, that's the same principle that you're going to use during the course of your day, and particularly in the evening. Meditation and prayer, this is a muscle that needs to be worked. So let me say that again. It's a muscle that needs to be worked. Because most people try this, and they're like, well, that didn't work. I tried it once, it just didn't work for me. Well, I hate to tell you, it's like any other muscle. You don't build a huge bicep overnight. It takes time to get cut, to get lean, to grow the tissue. So in turn, don't despair. You have to keep at it in order to get that greatest benefit out of it. Now, likewise, we also have to move our body. Let me tell you, if you're not exerting energy during the course of the day, if you're not burning off calories, if you're not exhausting the system, well, then guess what? You got all of this energy that's waiting to be put to use. Well, unfortunately, it's not going to allow you just to drift into sleep. We do this with our pets. We take them outside, we take them for a long walk. We let them go ahead and run around the yard. They do this themselves. If you have a dog, if you have a cat, and they have what's called the zoomies, oh my goodness, is right. Absolutely. You know what? Their butt goes to the ground, they haul their butt around the house, probably about 5 or 10 times at the fastest speed possible. They're jumping over everything, they're zigzagging around everything, but they're doing that in order to wear themselves out. What I know is my dog, the next thing he does after he has the zoomies, he hops himself back up on the couch, lays down, and takes another nap. So, listen, if we look to nature for the answer, oftentimes the example is right in front of us of things that we need to do also. Now, if you want to get a good night's sleep, one of the other things, you got to set yourself up for success. And we've done whole workshops on exactly this. Using your pillows, getting in place, making sure that you have the proper height pillow for underneath your head, making sure that that properly height pillow is between your legs to keep you from twisting around. If you're a back sleeper, yeah, you should have a pillow underneath the back of your neck and underneath your knees to make sure it takes stress and strain off that low back. Listen, does anybody sleep real well? Does anybody function real well when they're in pain? No. So you make sure that you're set up in the proper position. So like anything, these are just great examples, visuals of the good, the bad, and exactly the absolutely horrible, which is sleeping on your stomach. Now, one of the last things, and I have to introduce this because people oftentimes, it's one of the big things that they comment on as they're beginning their chiropractic care. I am feeling better, my pain is going away. One of the really great positives is I'm sleeping so much better. Well, listen, when you're removing the stress away from your spine, allowing the body to function more the way it's supposed to, communicating properly without that interference, when it's downtime, your body is ready to go. Like I said, if you're in pain, can you really sleep? No. If you're hacking because you got allergies, is it really easy to go to sleep? No. If you have pain and tingling and numbness going down to your arms and your fingertips, can you really just drift off into this nice, peaceful sleep? No. I recognize that the health of our body is in direct connection with the health of our spine and our nervous system. Chiropractic patients, listen. I know that you're doing your part in order to make sure that you're set up for success in order to get that best night's sleep. Yes, we could talk about all those other academics. But in turn, if we're missing this step, we're missing one of the biggest things that we're able to control in the healing process and in the sleeping process. And that's making sure that our spine, our nervous system is functioning at that optimal level. Now, as a close, one of the things I'm going to be recommending for everybody is to look at a workshop that we had done about EMFs, electromagnetic forces. The reason why I want you to look at this workshop is because those electromagnetic forces affect our brain function. They affect our the hormonal connections inside of our body, and we recognize that, listen, going to sleep is partially based upon some of those hormones. So we want to make sure that you're getting this information, that you've been reminded of it. I want you to go back and watch that workshop. So, I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limbic Chiropractic Center.